Welcome to the Supply Chain Pioneers podcast, where we highlight industry leaders on the forefront of innovation and technology in planning, procurement, and logistics. Hosted by your supply chain pro to know, Ulf Venn.
Supply Chain Pioneers is powered by Everstream Analytics. Everstream gives you the predictive insights and analytics to make your supply chain faster, smarter, safer, and leaner. Go to everstream.ai to book your demo today. Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of Supply Chain Pioneers. And with me today I have Adriano Garibotto, who's a co-founder and board member of Creatives Group. Hello Adriano.
Hi everybody.
Hey. So, as always, and as it is tradition, we first obviously want to know about who's here today. So why don't you quickly introduce yourself?
Well, I'm an old guy because I'm close to 68 and I have a long experience working, as you can imagine, in many different fields. But in the last years, I'm working on the space of the procurement. And this is my experience that is coming from the construction and engineering experience and is related with the fact that in construction, control of the cost is crucial too. Cost controlling is based on the fact that you are able to procure better and so on and so forth. And this experience being very helpful my last journey in the work in the last 25 years.
As you already said, you have started actually in construction and engineering, which is a very technical and very hands-on field. And then you started actually a consultancy company, which now is Creatives, in a very different fashion. You went into spend analytics, which it still is a little bit engineering, but it's related to a lot of data more than it is like this hands-on business that is construction. So why this dramatic shift?
As always in the life, chaos is governing us. Obviously, by chance, I had the opportunity in a moment of my life to completely change the field of activity, joining a company based on partnerships that was dedicated to provide consulting services for cost reduction. As I said before, I take the advantage of having deal with cost and control, etc., for a long time in the construction space and applying the same logic. At that time was only consulting. So we were far behind the possibility to introduce technology. I'm speaking about 97, 2000, this period of time, okay? So consulting was based mainly in Excel file and things like that. So not so far from my previous experiences. And starting from that, because this new consulting firm has a very attractive proposal based on a success fee, so meaning that we were committed to provide a solution for a client, but the client would pay us only if the real savings were achieved. And so this was very challenging, as you can imagine. And then there is this dramatic shift, the previous experience, and the second, as you said, database. Because if you have to document what are the results, these are numbers. And so you have to have a lot of analytics capabilities to do that.
And maybe that has to do with the next dramatic pivot that came in 2002. So you had your consulting company, but then you repivoted the focus completely, being one of the first to provide an AI solution for the procurement space, actually. In 2002, how did that happen?
Doing the job I described it before, maybe someone that is older than like me, remember that at that time, the computer capabilities were by far lower than today. But by the way, for example, Excel was limited to 67,000 lines. And even if you were able to fill 67,000 lines, probably you were in the situation to burn your PC. So there was a huge limitation about technology. And then comes the opportunity to make a big project of cost reduction for Pirelli. And Pirelli at that time was very advanced in SAP harmonization. They were one of the few big multinational companies having one single SAP. And then they downloaded from the SAP a TXT file of the POs that they have issued in the last year. It was 1 million of positions of PO lines. It was impossible to open with anything available. Okay. And so we start thinking about what we can do with this, how we can open this file to understand what is in there. And then by chance, my co-founder, Paolo Gamberoni, he met a former colleague of Accenture that was not anymore in Accenture. And speaking with him, so yes, I have a collaboration with a little spin-off of University of Verona, some smart guys that are doing jobs with in-memory computing and semantics. Also, plop. So when the brains make links. And so immediately we joined with those guys. We bought the company. We incorporated inside of us CTO that is currently our CTO, Francesco Bellomi. And then everything starts from there. So we were introducing something absolutely new in the space of the procurement. Never saw before. Actually, the reality is that otherwise was impossible to face this kind of sizing of project. And we did successfully.
Yeah, that is amazing. So in 2002, where the dot-com bubble was still active and bursting very soon, you already worked with AI, which now everybody's talking about, that's an amazing story. And it's good that it's based on a real life use case as well. I think that always makes it stronger. Talking about this a little bit more, now that we have established you have a long experience and history with AI, more than probably anybody else that I know, frankly, you told me that you really believe in the AI human approach even today after all these new computings and so on. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit your stance and why you think that's your experience right now?
Generative AI is designed to provide not the true solutions, but true answers. It's designed to provide admissible answers, okay? And so there are a lot of things related with hallucination of generative AI, et cetera, et cetera. We are working in a very specific space because we are not a generic AI. We are working in the procurement area and even more specific procurement of material and services, okay? And if you think to the materials, materials are components of a final product or components of a machine to produce that final product. So trustable answers, you cannot admit some vague answers or answers that could be wrong because you can make a lot of damage. So to achieve the precision that is needed in this process, it's crucial to customize the engine to the local situation. Why? Because generative AI is trained on public information. Everything that is readable inside of the internet is the main source of information. But in companies, there is a specific part of the story that is a little bit strange. Every company has his own jargon. And when it comes to understand what is specifically written, and this includes a jargon is something that is understandable by human beings that share the same knowledge. But this is not a public knowledge. It's in the mind of the people that are exchanging information between them. You need to have a system that makes possible to this part of the story. Otherwise, you will never achieve the precision that is needed in this process. And this is why we are combining technologies, okay? But for the last mile, for the precision, we call human in the loop process, okay? So supervised AI, technically speaking, okay, to achieve the precision that is needed. And this is something that will never change in the short time period, because I do not know or I cannot foresee in which way a machine can deduct a meaning about something that is in the head of the reader.
I actually have a very similar experience from my own work. If you think about, because what we do in my work is reacting to problems, right? Supply chain crises. So if a supplier is on fire and so on. If you ask any of these language learning models how to react to those, they give you the most standard blank answers, because obviously nobody will tell you how they do it, because that's a competitive advantage. You don't have this information in the internet, so the AI doesn't know, and that's why they're only from some random vendors, they make plans, but you don't have the companies don't share their knowledge publicly. And that's why there's not a good plan out there. And I think that's the same here, right? You have a specific language, you have a specific way they describe a certain data point, and then every material number is different. Every material description is different for every company.
On top of that, there is the fact that the fantasy of the people is endless. So you can discover very quickly. So there is a big theory in the art, specifically when you define when you define the boundaries, like a picture, okay? You define boundaries. And within these boundaries, the fantasy of the human brain explodes. You can make it. So the boundaries in procurement are the 40 character of SIP purchase order requisition. The people in 40 character made it imaginable. So you can find endless version of call bidding. And that's absolutely incredible. And you multiply it by languages, millions of
million. Yeah, hopefully you don't have a Pablo Picasso in your organization coming up with a really creative ways of describing material. But the art was good, though. We have to admit that. Good painter. Anyway, at the heart of your solution, right, if you look at what you're actually doing, I think it's a lot about achieving clean data, limiting the boundaries of the picture in a certain way, right? Making the picture a little bit smaller, which I do believe is one of the biggest challenges companies have these days, especially if they want to use AI for anything else. So you are a true expert in the field of cleaning up this data. What would be for you 3 suggestions for anybody out there that would start with something like this right now?
I like a lot. There are many maps about the solutions and so forth. I like a lot one that has been created by Eloise Epstein of Kearney. It's called the spider chart. And it's a spider, so there is a body in the middle and then connections. And you can have an endless kind of connection. But at the core, there is a little space that is called data foundation. And the point is that data is the enabler factor for any kind of application. Otherwise, we are in the garbage in, garbage out trap. And I always say, you can buy a Ferrari, but if you stop at the first gas station and you put petrol inside of the engine, you broke it. So that's simple. It's not because the engine is bad, but because you made the mistake to fill with the wrong gasoline. And for the system, it's the same. So the idea here is that if we apply artificial intelligence to the data to fix the problems that has the historical data, so the data that has been already recorded and you cannot skip. And in the same time, you provide a solution that allows people to create good data from the very beginning of any process. In that sense, you build up the possibility that all the systems that are connected really empowered at the point that they were expected to be when they have been bought. How many failed they are around there? And most of them are related with the bad quality of the data. And obviously the answer of the software producer many times is, my system works. Like the Ferrari guy that can say, my car works. You feel it with the wrong things. This is not my responsibility. So I would say the consciousness about this point regarding the data is not something that is too old. I can tell you, I'm in this field, you remember from a long time, we were praying the desert about quality of the data till, so people were absolutely saying, no, I have good data. Everything is in SAP. The data is good. Sorry, I didn't understand.
So how to fix that?
Well, the process to fix it is exactly the capability to transform the existing data in a real digital twin, okay? Because what the current data is a simple paper written in a virtual mode inside of a computer, nothing else. None of the unstructured information that are recorded in a PLM, in a SAP, in a Oracle or whatever system is useless, are unstructured information. You cannot exploit them. So you need to transform this information in structured information that is the real digital twin of the material itself in terms of information, not in terms of function. A derived meaning of digital twin, I would say. So the information related to that item is really exploitable. And to do that, when you face that are large, and when I say large, for example, a typical process manufacturing company could have around 10 billion of turnover, could have easily 300, 400,000 materials, especially in the MRO space. And this is something that you cannot cleanse manually. So this is impossible. So meaning that in that case is exactly where artificial intelligence works, can make the same reasoning that a very expert of the domain can do on the raw data and transform this raw data in structured data. And to do that is what we said before regarding the specific training, making possible that artificial intelligence does exactly the same reasoning. More important, with that information. Because explicit information, you can make interpretations, okay? But implicit information is even more crucial. If I find a description like A4, nothing else, and the supplier is an Audi dealer, you can argue that he is a model of car. But if the supplier is a Lyrico, you can argue that is a piece of paper. Why you can argue? Because you have a knowledge in your mind. You know what Audi means, what Audi does, and what Lyrico does, etc. So our connection is in our brain to provide a meaning that otherwise is useless. Okay? And this is where artificial intelligence, this is exactly space where artificial intelligence proper trained works.
Okay. So maybe we go into that a little bit more in detail because I'm curious. So you have built all these AI models. They work with implicit and explicit information and really make the data the best it can be. So your AI models, your consultative approach, your knowledge, all of that now has been built into a software as a service platform that you also provide. So how does the platform work? And what are some of the outcomes that customer can expect from that?
The AI be applied to analyze two main different kind of information. First of all, the information that are coming from POs and invoice, so spending, okay? And information that are coming from master data, so they're not strictly related with spending, okay? But the artificial intelligence that make possible the interpretation of this data is the same. So it's a sort of basic layer. Built up on this layer, there are vertical solutions. The vertical solution are one for the spend analytics. So feeded with the POs and invoices, you can have a very clear and deep understanding of your consumption model. And another vertical application is for material master data governing, that you need to have a system to cleanse, harmonize, get clean, and stay clean. Because every day, a large company can create hundreds of new materials. So you need to have a continuous possibility to maintain the neatness that you made in the activities before. Otherwise, in a very short period of time, you will have again the mess you were in the period before. So these are the two pillars application. And we have, on top of that, we have also a virtual assistant that is the same artificial intelligence to make possible to search and categorize materials. Why? And those assistants can be embedded in the transactions in the ERPs or in the PLMs and so on. So everywhere you need to search material using your natural language is a place where you can put an API supporting you. Why? Because the search capabilities of the transactional systems are very old-fashioned, based on keywords, things like that. So if you don't know the keyword, you don't find. And so you create a free text order. That is a mess. So to avoid that, we can empower using the artificial intelligence. We can break down the barrier between the human being and the machine using the artificial intelligence. That is one of the big applications, also in other fields, otherwise the procurement. So breaking down the barrier of interact is a way to make possible to the people use the knowledge they have without an extra training and get the result that are expected at corporate level.
That's pretty powerful, actually. I really like especially the interaction because you're right. A lot of systems are outdated. I once worked in a big company in Germany and we did a SAP migration back in the days. And I also was one struggling with Excel files and trying to get like cost centers aligned because it was financing. And a lot of cost centers were opened because they didn't find the right one. So that's definitely since the founding of SAP and Oracle, that's a problem.
But if you think mapping that you mentioned before is important, this one, because today there is an evolution to try to make a standardization about the categorization system. So we know that in the B2C space, there is a worldwide agreement that is GS1. So every barcode that you find in the supermarket is valid all over the world and is a common identifier for all the products that are filling the B2C space. This is not true in the B2B space, no, because every company sells whatever they want, and every company that has bought this code the system in every way they want. So there is not a common understanding. But SAP Ariba, Coupa, Amazon Business, etc., main players are adopting UNSPSC as a standard categorization system. There has been many tentative in the DACH area. There was E-Class, for example, as a standard. Has been remained, I would say, a German thing more than an international thing. So UNSPSC is crucial. But if you think of that, one of the problems is that the categorization system that you have in SAP or in URO is not necessarily UNSPSC. If you want to use Ariba or you want to use Coupa or et cetera, you need to make a mapping between the two taxonomies. And make a mapping is a tricky situation because you can have a relation one-to-one between the taxonomies. And if you make a decision about one of them, what you are really doing is to make a mistake. And so to avoid a mistake, the normal approach is to go back to the root, the common root. But if you go back to the common root, you are generic. So in any case, you have a mess. So artificial intelligence, and this is a game changer here, is able to categorize in any taxonomy independently with the right precision of each taxonomy. So I'm not committed anymore to have a mapping. It's not useful. I can avoid to introduce an error.
Now we want to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes. I already talked about Pablo Picasso today and a lot of things. And that all is actually to just come finally to one of the important questions. So creatives as a company, deeply rooted in Italy. And the origin story also has a lot to do with your airport in Turin. So Italy plays a core role in the founding of your company. What are, from your point, some of the pros, but also the cons of developing a software as a service platform in Italy instead of, I don't know, what you would otherwise imagine, San Francisco, the Bay Area in general, or other startup cities?
Even if Creacti today has more or less 92% of the turnover outside of it. There is a way of saying in Italian that no one is prophet in his own country. And this is a typical situation in Italy. Italy is one of the powerhouses with Germany of export of goods. We export a lot. Not too much in the software, more in the fashion industry, in the fast cars, things like that, food, but not in software. So this is an historical thing that we have tried to overcome, obviously with a big effort. We start in Europe, that today is a common space. So it's true that we have an incredible advantage to be an union that many people don't feel enough, in my opinion. The fact that I can travel to Germany or to Spain or to France, etc., the common currency, common rules, exportations without any specific process, like selling my stuff in the market below my home, is my home. Euro is my home. And in that sense, I was the enabler of the internationalization of Creatives. The possibility I'm living in Turin. In 1 hour and a half of flight, I cannot be anywhere in Europe practically. 1 hour and a half, nothing else. So I always say, when you are in Montana, you take a plane, in 1 hour and a half, you are still in Montana. So the space is important. So US is the largest country in terms of technology, power, technology market, et cetera. And obviously also is one of the most challenging. And this is the reason why we start from Europe, consolidated our capabilities, and then we are facing more and more operations overseas. Okay. Currently, we have many clients based in the US, but also in Mexico, also in Brazil, etc. We are covering more and more through a partnership program, meaning that we want to remain Italian in terms of core organization. But for the services related with the implementations, we want to rely on partnerships. And we have strong partnerships today with Accenture, with KPMG, with Entity Data, and many others, Bain, etc. Exactly for jumping on the shoulders of giants that bring us to the world.
We looked at your company and how it developed. Now let's look at your view and how it changed. When you look back, you have a very rich background now outside of the procurement world and now also in the procurement world. So what were your experiences in the last 20 years that helped you look at maybe procurement and supply chain in a different way than you would have done before you started here?
This tough question indeed. When I started working, procurement was the neglected space to be in a company. So we are a sort of Cayenne, the people that were expelled from other functions and you cannot fire, they were sent to procurement. This was the situation in the last 90s, early 2000s, was that. So there was an incredible effort from the procurement community to try to transform themselves and perceive it as not like a function that put obstacles for the people that are really working for the company, okay? Because this was the perception. It's still now in some. So yeah, those guys are procurement. I need this. I need it quickly. I know where to buy it and stop it. Don't say nothing else. You are not providing any added value. This is a part that has been transformed more and more in this period of time. And I suppose that in that sense, data has been a crucial factor. Because one of the things that a single inside of a company, responsible for operation of a plant, et cetera, cannot have is the global view, spending about a commodity or how the prices are going on, et cetera, which would be the right model, the risk, et cetera. This big view, this global view about the situation is something that embraced by the procurement, provide the procurement the capability to be not a guest, but a protagonist on the table where the decisions are taken. And this is for me the best outcome of this process in the time. I hope that we have contributed to that, to do it.
Yeah, I think so. So now I have a provocative question, because you're a true AI expert, right? So is the human race in trouble or not?
Not at all. So I always remember when I made my MBA many years ago, there was a story about the collectors of the horses in Chicago. There was a big strike about those collectors with the introduction of the cars. Because they say, okay, with the cars, we have no more work, okay? And this is not true. Those people have changed their work and the world has gone on. Historically proven that disruptions always create some social cost. This is true. But I would say, it's a responsibility of our politicians to govern the social cost of the technological, okay, to mitigate for the people that are losing the job because jobs are not there. But if you think about, yesterday I was walking here in Turin downtown, and there was about a multinational, a Spanish multinational, that is specialized on covers of cell phones. So an entire industry from nothing, okay, on what is this? It is a stupid thing, but you never know. It's like the cows, I said before. A butterfly slap in the Singapore Sea has unexpected consequences in Europe. You don't know. It's impossible to figure out. You can figure out the big things, but And in the case of the I see the same thing. Yes, we will automatize process, but that means that we will need less people, but those people will be replaced in other situations, in other works, etc., etc. For sure, there are big movements. For sure, certain professions will die or will be reduced dramatically, but other completely unexpected, completely unknown will burn. So we need to be positive. And an entrepreneur cannot be not positive. Otherwise, it's better that you pension yourself.
Yes. You're passionate about what we do. We can all see that today. You're even recording while being sick, which I really appreciate that. So I want to ask about, I always ask a hobby question. So how do you release some steam after a hard day of work?
Sorry, say again?
How do you release some steam? How do you get the pressure off your shoulders after a hard day of work?
I suppose that delegate is the crucial point. And I would say that if you think at the chasm or the famous curve of war, this is the crucial point for any company. So the capability to create a layer between the founders and the people that are working and make possible to delegate, okay? And this is the crucial part of the story, because otherwise it's impossible to grow, okay? Even if I would say there are certain activities that not necessarily need to grow, okay? I'm thinking about very specialized things and so on. But we, in the space of the software, we need to scale, otherwise we die, okay? And the only way to do that is delegation. And the capability to delegate obviously rely on the capability to select the right people. War of find the right people, the right excellent people, maybe better than you. This is absolutely the best way to do.
That's good that you trust your people, but still being responsible for such a big group is still a big challenge, I would say. So what do you do after work? So what do you do to maybe sports to help you really get into the motion of, okay, I can calm down now and everything's fine?
I cook.
Okay.
It's a sport because first of all, if you want to cook well, you have to go to the market, to the farmer market, have a lot of discussions, try to select the right things, etc. Go to home, stay standing all the time, etc. Dedication. And this is a concentration job. And it's also a job that requires reactions, quick reactions. So for me, incredibly relaxing, okay? Otherwise, obviously, I walk a media of 8,000 steps per day. So I try to maintain myself, because if you only cook and eat, you have a problem. But yeah, as Italian, I would say this is a kind of thing that is part of the mood of the place we live, and also the kind of family I have the fortune to have.
Yeah. And that's why so in my point of view, the Italian food is the best in the world, and your passion as a hobbyist is already showing that. It's really good, actually. And especially your area, the food is not bad, actually.
Well, with this rain that we are having now, this is promising a very good season for the white truffle. It's in this area of close to Turin, is where is mainly in Alba, 40 kilometers from here. So we are expecting a very good season.
Good. So there's always a good season for one product that Italy has, and that's coffee. I have a suspicion that something's up with the coffee, because whenever I'm in Italy, the coffee just tastes better. Okay? It's the best coffee ever, no matter where you go. And I don't know why. It feels like, and maybe it's the environment, maybe it's a flair, but there must be something else, because I don't understand.
No, well, this is an interesting story, because most of the people think that more is good, that bean more is selected. There is this kind of bean that is eaten by the elephants and then expelled, and then you select. Things incredible they are made. But to make a good espresso, you need to have at least 50% of the beans of a kind of coffee that is called Robusta, a high quality coffee. It has a specific capability to create cream. If you want to have a very beautiful high reef Colombian things and you want to taste the flavor of that piece of coffee, you need the Robusta to channel it. You have only water, dark water. So it's always a combination between components that not necessarily are the most costly one, but it's the right combination. It's like the training of the AI.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's perfect. Perfect analogy to the end, actually. And with that, actually, we are at the finish. Adriano, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. This was a pleasure. And I learned a lot about AI and how somebody with that much experience talks about it.
Thank you. Thank you for the possibility to have this chat. And thank you to have this very beautiful conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, for everybody who listens or watches,
bye-bye.
This was Supply Chain Pioneers. Thanks for watching, listening, or however you are enjoying this podcast. You can find Supply Chain Pioneers on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other major podcast players, as well as on YouTube at Ulf Talk Supply Chain. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time.